जब हम इस प्रॉब्लम के बारे में सोच रहे थे and then we tried several approaches, and then community radio emerged as one of the possible ways to sort of increase the internet penetration in India. So I'll talk about the sort of broad problem and how community radio fits into it. So before, I guess many of you may or may not know about Bell Lab, so just a brief thing. So we are a telecommunications research lab. In India, we are based out of Bangalore, but we are headquartered in New Jersey, US. And this is just a timeline of several inventions that happened in Bell Lab, starting from television to cellular phones to laser, programming languages, TV, etc. And a big portion of our entire organization works on these cutting-edge technology. But in India, one of our focus is how do we design technologies for emerging markets. And we have been doing projects around mobile banking, financial literacy, crowdsourcing platforms which provide livelihood to people in rural areas, and in general improving internet access and penetration. So about 4 or 5 months back, we started thinking of this problem that if you look at the sort of internet penetration numbers, say that there were about 121 million internet users in India, and 80% of them come from urban cities, and the vast majority is sort of from the educated background. And the penetration at the grassroots is still very, very low. And by grassroots, I don't mean people who are the poorest of the poor, but even, take your taxi driver or a grocery store owner, they have reasonable mobile phones, they have reasonable incomes, but still the internet penetration is very low. So let's look at the sort of argument that many people give why internet is not very popular. So if you ask people at the grassroots, they will say that no, internet is very expensive for us. There is not enough infrastructure. The cell phone towers, etc., are not around. So it's hard for us to use the internet. And when you go to mobile companies like Airtel, Vodafone, and ask them that why don't you install mobile towers in these localities, they would say that we don't have enough user base in this locality, so it doesn't make a commercial sense for us. So it's like a cyclic problem. Unless you install the infrastructure, you won't get the user base, and to get the user base, you need the infrastructure. So internet penetration hasn't happened in emerging markets as much. So our approach was let's keep the cost and infrastructure issues out of question for now. Let's focus on how can we get enough user base for internet in the web at the grassroots. And once we have this user base, let's go to Airtel and Vodafone and ask them why don't we subsidize the plans and why don't we install more towers. So how do we get this user base at the grassroots? That was the sort of key problem. And we figured out that the possible approach is if we somehow get reliable and relevant content to people at the grassroots using web, that can be one way to increase the user base. And so if you look at talking about reliable and relevant content, there are other internet-based applications which these Airtels and Vodafones provide to, but they are all sort of very top-down designed. They would push Bollywood songs or agriculture, top-level agriculture information, mythology. There is, all this is there is very less local relevance in all this information. So all top-down pushed. So we wanted to see if an alternative model is that some of the people in the grassroots, they can create this content and they are the consumers eventually. So this model is more locally relevant. And this is where we started working with community radios because as you all know, community radios are very vibrant content creation systems and are quite popular in grassroots and create vast variety of content ranging from agriculture and entertainment. So this was our sort of introduction, taking the broad problem of internet penetration. Then we zeroed in on community radios because they create that local relevant content that is of interest to us. So we visited a few stations just to know more about how they work. And Part Valoni in Madurai and Sangam Radio Zahirabad and Radioactive in Bangalore, with whom we actively collaborate. And these are our initial findings from our point of view, very initial. So we found the RDS to be highly motivated individuals. They were driven by several factors. We asked them why do you create content, and we found that fame is one, but things like community betterment, self-pride, and of course tangibles like money. We found them overall to be very, very motivated, and the good thing was many of the RJs are actually using the internet. They do a lot of research over the internet to create their programs. So the initial problem that the content on the internet is not very relevant for the grassroots. The RJs are solving this problem to an extent by doing all the research themselves, then collating all the content and then giving it to the listeners.